Welcome.
That was good.
Oh no.
Guys, I know I rarely ever say this, but Todd Wanish is the smartest man on the planet. Because what I was about ready to say was so bad.
Oh
it should
man,
probably
yeah,
not have
I was
ever
like,
been
oh, time to go. Yeah, nothing like going live in the middle of a
a Drew story. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh boy.
Welcome everybody. It's Thursday night. It's the Lore Games.
Lore.
Yeah.
Lore,
Woo!
Lore Games.
Lore games.
Lore. It's been an awesome week. We got a lot of stuff going on. Let's see. Do we have any quick updates? I think one of the things I'll mention before we jump into everything. Willie D says that would have been good. What's up, Willie D? Is mentioned before we get started that we are soft promoting right now, but promoting the Web3 Comic-Con. It's web3comiccon.com. We are going to be throwing the best Web3 pop culture summit on the planet coming this summer. More info soon. We've been busy talking to a ton of phenomenal projects and founder teams and NFTs. It's going to be badass. So if you haven't joined, if you never heard of this before, go to web3comiccon.com, hit the button that says get notified. When you click it, just a little modal will pop up, and you can just put your name in there and your email, and we will keep you posted as soon as we get our shit together with it. So definitely do that. Hop over there, web3comiccon.com. And if you have ideas, if there's teams that you want us to focus on, if you want, if you're like, oh man, this is an awesome project, they would be awesome at Web3 Comic Con. Let us know. Go into Adult Fantasy Discord or hit us up on Twitter. Let us know, and we're going to do everything we can to bring them in. Yeah, man, it's going to be, man, I cannot wait till you guys see what we have been working on. I mean, let's just say this. It's coming this summer, and we're already working on it now, so we're going to do everything we can to knock this thing out of the park. It's going to be freaking badass. Ain't that right?
Yeah.
That sounds accurate.
Yeah, so, hey, guys, how's it going?
It's good.
So, quick introduction. We got, let's see, I'll start with Dusty. Hi, Dusty, how are you?
Oh, me. Hi.
How you doing?
Good. Ready for lore.
Ready for lore. Awesome, man. And onto my other side here, we've got Mikhail Kalishnikov.
What's up?
What's up, Avery? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm happy.
Awesome. Yeah, we Avery was making fun of me today. Maybe we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
He was cracking on me all day today, which is pretty good. Well deserved as well. Well deserved. Yeah, so I'll do the quick introductions. Dusty from Adult Fantasy. Avery also from Adult Fantasy. Avery has also done work for Image Comics, Heavy Metal Magazine, White Wolf, done a lot of tabletop RPG illustration stuff for game companies. He's the artist and illustrator of the Origin comic featuring D Void, and many more things to come. And then I will go down this way. What's up, Flint? How are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Anytime that I can talk to the co-founder of Adult Fantasy, I'm doing great, man.
Aw.
Yeah.
You're entirely too nice.
How's your week been, dude?
Man, I can't complain.
Yeah.
Done with COVID, much happier, and ready to do some lore games.
Yeah, man. It's we're getting revved up. What we have tonight, I think we're going to go through some stuff, crack open some things, maybe show some game engine stuff that we're working on, and yeah, I'm this is now we're getting into the fun stuff. So I'm super, not that it wasn't fun before, it was always been fun, but like more engagement and more community based, and getting into the gaming side is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, welcome. Andrew, how are you?
Hey.
Last we spoke, you were going to say something about some chimpanzees, and I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I already told the story. You weren't there. Sorry.
Cool. How are you?
Something about 3 donkeys and a midget?
I'm great. I'm great. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. Any have you had any good scam calls lately?
Every day. Every day.
Life is just one big scam call.
It feels like that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's really good.
Looking forward to the weekend. That's when I do most of my comic stuff. That's the fun stuff.
Yes, I understand. As I showed in the green room, I'm sitting here next to like a whole stack of like I'm looking at Dale Keown's Incredible Hulk run from the 90s. And just kind of like going through some stuff. And then Jay Lee's
Namor.
Jay Lee's Namor, which is like freaking phenomenal stuff, man. Like it's super simple, and if you look at it, it's kind of cheesy because like super muscles. But man, is it just awesome? Like it's so fun. Look at that.
You know what's so funny is I just so happen
Avery,
to have.
I bet his pencils are super tight.
I just so happen to have a Dale Keown Hulk sitting right next to me, and I bet you this isn't one that you have. Yeah.
Oh,
This is the one with the Abomination in it.
Oh yeah.
This is What's so funny about this is my wife and I were watching the She-Hulk show. Yes, we watched the whole thing, and I was telling her about yes, this is probably one good. I'm glad you have it because it's one of my favorite Hulk issues with the Abomination in it. The story's just really good, and the way it ended is just perfect. And
yeah, it's an odd Dale Keown. So I was looking at. I don't want to go into super comic nerd talk, but that dude is doing some amazing pieces right now. I don't know if you've seen previews of what he's working on, but holy crap! That guy,
like Gymshock?
Yeah. It's a freaking. The guy's a genius. He's always been a prodigy. The guy is just ridiculous.
Yeah, phenomenal. He's doing that book with Mandy.
That's right. Yep. Freaking nuts. Anyway, welcome, Drew.
Hey, I actually bought a comic.
You bought a comic?
Oh, let's see.
I bought a comic. It may not be as cool as that Hulk comic.
That's all right. Everybody thinks Jughead is a good comic. Don't worry.
Oh,
yo!
Yeah.
Nice.
So I haven't read it yet, but I'm gonna try to read it I just got it, so I'm gonna try to read it by tomorrow night.
How'd you get it? I don't remember. Huh? Huh?
He stole it from your house.
Did I send it to you?
No.
Andrew did, yeah?
No.
How'd you find it?
I may have bought it on eBay for
What?
a disappointing price, but yeah.
A disappointing price? Fair play. Well played, sir. Well played.
I can't believe you found that.
Yeah, there was one on eBay, so I picked it up. I'll
so
try to read it by
Probably
tomorrow.
from Andrew's store because I gave him some and he started selling them.
There's probably a retailer out there going, "Thank God I finally sold this thing."
Probably, yeah.
I think it came from Illinois. I can't quite remember, but I think it was
That's
Illinois
wicked,
or Indiana or something like that.
That's very cool, man. That book
That's awesome.
is near and dear to my heart, and there may be. You never know. Look, there's no reason why we can't bring them back into AF. So, that's awesome. Congrats, man. That makes my day. That's freaking badass.
That's wild.
That's hardcore.
I have to say, there's a few segments of the dialogue that's really, really good, and that's about it. The parts that I help write, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
If you couldn't figure that out, yeah.
Fair enough. Well, awesome. Okay, Dusty, you win 15 points.
Well done.
Just for that. Zach, how you doing, man?
I'm good.
Thought we forgot about him.
No, we forget about it.
Yeah, I am the Invisible Man.
Yeah. So
I'm the Invisible Man.
Invisible Man.
Sorry, go ahead.
So just to catch up, everybody, we're
Zach.
actually what?
No, I'm just trying to get attention. I'm like a 3-year-old right now.
That's all right. We're Zach's first draft of the Adult Fantasy novel is in. We're reading it. As soon as we go through it, and as soon as Zach approves, we'll push it to some other select members of the community. It's pretty badass. It's really good. It's really good. So it's pretty amazing. So yeah, welcome, Zach.
Yo.
Yeah. And also want to say hello to Galaxy. What's up? Willie D, what's up? KG, what's up? How you guys doing? So lore games. So here is what I'm thinking for tonight, guys. We've been doing a lot of different pieces over the last. So, okay, I'm full disclosure, transparency, and kind of clue you into some of the things that we've been working on the last, like, really since last week. So, we started working, really diving into a player's handbook. It's pretty deep because we haven't made it public, but we have a bunch of stuff, like a world Bible, and it's very, I mean, Dusty, would you say it's pretty thorough? It's pretty deep.
It's pretty deep, yeah.
Yeah. And so since I guess starting 2 weeks ago, but really starting last week, we really started kind of pushing into the RPG side of things. So what I thought would be really cool is to look at what we're working on in the RPG and then just talk about it, because it'll get us in the mindset of what we can do with something like this. And it'll get us, it'll help to develop some of the characters and some of the ideas and some of the scenarios and all that kind of stuff. And I think you guys are going to love it, especially because it's been designed as rules light, meaning that it's not 8 bazillion charts and graphs and cross-referencing this and that. And I mean, it's meant to be fun and simple. It's, hey, what's up, MK? Welcome. And so we're going to go through the RPG, and this again. So just so you know, I'm kind of peeling back the curtain here. This is alpha. This is not even public beta. So there are problems. We haven't done any editing. We're just throwing stuff at the wall. But I want some feedback, and we'll go through it. And that way, when we start to generate stories, all this stuff is going to be here. It's going to be really, really cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share. I'm going to share my screen. So there you go. You guys see the Adult Fantasy Player's Handbook?
Yes.
All right. So let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. All right. So this is deceiving. It looks really simple. There's a lot of shit actually in here. So I'm going to go through some stuff, and then we can just throw out some ideas. And I think you guys will get the hang of this really quick. It's meant to be easy, it's a lot of fun. And I've spent probably, before we jump in, I'll say this, I've probably spent over a year looking at different game systems, different rule sets, trying to find something that would fit. Like, you know, most of our audience, including most of the people on this panel, I'll say at least half, you know, have never played an RPG. Right. So we've got like Zach and Flint are very experienced at RPGs, but then Dusty and Andrew and Avery are not. Ramel, I don't think he's big into RPGs. He's screwing up our diversity quota by not being here, but whatever, it's fine. So it's a good mix, right? Like that's the whole point. So we wanted to find a good system that is fun for both experienced players and for people who've never played before, because things like D&D and all this stuff, it's really intimidating, man. Like it's almost like jumping into Web3 level of intimidating for someone that's new, right? If you put like jumping into Web3 and like the D&D 5th edition player's handbook in front of somebody, like they're just going to jump out a window, or they're just going to choose like Web3. You know what I mean? Like it's like really hard to get in. So we're trying to pick something that's kind of craft something that's a little more fun, a little more simple. All right. So I'm going to start with getting started. As we get started, there's going to be, or there could be, because again, this is all alpha. We can change everything. There's going to be 2 sections, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 is character creation. Part 2 is creating a secret headquarters. And again, we can change everything. Nothing is written in stone, and that's why we're sharing it tonight. So we're going to jump into character creation, and now we're going to have a kind of a step-by-step on how to do this. So the first thing is abilities. I'm also not going to go through like everything in detail because it would take probably, the whole time. But I'm gonna skim enough so that we can kind of get to the fun, juicy bits and kind of play with it. So the first thing that I thought would be interesting is if you actually, as you create a character, you actually have to roll to determine whether you have powers or not. Right? Like, and actually in this model, I've said, how have your powers activated yet? Yes or no. But that assumes that you have powers. I also think it could be cool if you don't have powers, right? Because you can always be once you see the weapons section and the armory section, like you can be just a full-on human Punisher style sniper and be totally fine, right? So you don't have to have superpowers to be like a cool character in this universe, right? Again, Carl is one of my favorite characters, and he's just like, yeah, the dude. He's just a dude with a pistol that believes he's living inside of Jacob's Ladder or something. So right. So
aren't we all?
Yeah, this is true. Like, I call that a Monday. So that's the first thing. Do you think, again, I'm opening this up, just throw out stuff. If you think it's cool that we should roll for powers, like if your powers have activated or not, again, this is character creation. And I should also state that there's no harm in choosing what you want or starting over. Meaning, if you roll a D10, which is a die with 10-sided die, and you get, I don't have powers, or my powers haven't activated yet, but you really want powers, then you just pick, I have powers, right? Yeah. It's really an optional thing. It's more to jog the memory. So I guess first thing first, do you think, like, should everyone have powers? Should there be people with no powers? What do you guys think?
I'd say it depends. I'm because we haven't gotten there yet. I don't know if you've worked through the problem of balance yet. Having a character that doesn't have powers can be fine if they have powerful weapons, like you said. You're Carl, but you have a laser gun, right?
Right.
But for superpowers, well, they potentially already have a powerful weapon inherently, right? They have their powers. So you need to lock off some of the weaponry that might be available to non-powered people. Like, you wouldn't want to have Superman with a laser gun, right?
Right.
There's an opportunity to create a extremely overpowered character there,
Right. That's a good point. And
it can work. It's just something that we need to consider when we're looking at what the abilities for powered and non-powered characters are.
That's a good point. So I wrote it down. I think that's something we can play with. I don't think I haven't created any balancing for powers versus non-powers yet. But that's something that I'm definitely gonna I'll highlight, and we should.
It's definitely a solvable problem, and I think it's interesting. The idea of having powered versus non-powered characters. I do think whatever you do, whatever we do give to non-powered characters needs to be really interesting. Otherwise, people are going to try and pick a powered character every single time.
I think when you see right now, actually, most of this is geared towards non-powered.
Awesome.
So because the powers are going to be so strong, like I've got the archetypes, like the powered archetypes, which I'll walk through. But I was kind of thinking, like, because those are going to be so obviously powerful, like, to focus on the quote unquote regular people first, right?
Right.
And I like the idea of, because what makes this different is that this actually affects, it's not just a game for a campaign. It's a character that's living and growing within the universe and affecting canonical lore. So when a normal character or an unpowered character goes into battle and gains morale or gains fame, and then maybe loses an arm and has it replaced with a cybernetic one, right? Like all of a sudden, that character, even if they don't have powers or their powers haven't activated, it doesn't necessarily mean that they can't get powers. And I also think there might be something cool with even starting with no powers and having to level up to powers, right? Like you have to work and your character has to grow and you have to reach a level of XP before your powers either activate through a randomized roll or you're modified and mutated to have something.
You get to role play getting bit by that radioactive spider.
Exactly. Or
role play like some cybernetic implants or something.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like how did you become Cable? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like
that's not bad.
I dig it.
Cool. MK says MK says he's finished in class, driving home at 5, listening in. Awesome. KG says, I'm cool with being Batman, no powers, but kick-ass weapons. Yeah, exactly. Like, and I also, one of the other things too is like, I always love normal people characters, right? Like, I mean, if you look at AFS1, like a lot of those characters, some of them seem super heroic, of course, but a lot of them kind of like, there's always a little bit of humanity to them. Like, I like the idea of the bodega owner that ends up defending his store from zombies and then turns into like Evil Dead. What's his name? Avery. Bruce Campbell.
Ash Williams.
The best character. Like that's 100% a superhero. 100%, but he didn't start that way. Like he had to go through living hell and have his hand cut off and replace it with a chainsaw.
Yeah.
That's
what they changed when they remade Evil Dead 1 into Evil Dead 2. They changed it into a superhero origin because in the second one, once he steps up, he's like a superhero. He already knows what to do. He knows how to fight them. He's got the chainsaw hand. He's got the double barrel shotgun.
That's right.
He's got the one-liners. Give me some sugar, baby.
Mm-hmm.
He's a superhero.
He's a superhero, and I love that. So it's not. I mean, X-Men are cool, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's also something really fun about the average person being forced into a superhero role, right? Without even it feeling like a superhero.
Yeah.
Right. Which is, I think, pretty cool. So there are 5 abilities. These are actually the abilities that are already on the back of the card. Like I said, we've been planning this for a long time. I'm still working on some of the names just for ease. But you basically have attack or defense, or in this document right now, it's called power and durability, agility, charm, and knowledge. And these basically cover pretty much everything that you're going to be able to roll for, right? Power is attack, strike, grapple, lift, throw, etc. Durability is your survivability, force of will, saving throws, defense, toughness. Agility is athletic ability, sneak, dodge, dive, poise, speed. Charm is luck. It's also magic if you're a super character and you have a magical ability. Deceive, pressure, convince, perception, intuition. And then knowledge is intelligence, all the sciences, critical thinking, understanding, things like that. So if you had to do a religion check, it might be under knowledge, right? It's the kind of the equivalent, if that makes sense. So generating
where's charisma and good looks? Because I mean, that'd be my character.
That would be charm.
Oh, charm. Okay.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know why that went right over my head, but yeah.
Oh, create a character who's a priest who eventually becomes a mage.
Yeah, there you go. So generating ability values. So this is really interesting. So full disclosure, we were looking at one of the influences for this. There was a couple of games. One was called it started with Morkborg and then went to the Borg books. So there's a Morkborg and Cyborg, which are really good systems. And then I was looking at a book called Dead in Space. It's all based off of these like guys from Sweden that I guess just like all they do is like listen to death metal and like role play because they're freaking geniuses. But they're I'm gonna just say they're on the spectrum because their gaming systems are phenomenal. But but it's kind of a take on that, but modeled for adult fantasy. So what we'll do to generate abilities is you're going to roll 5d10, so that's a total of 50 points, and then you use the ability table below to generate the ability score between -3 to +3, right? And so that'll be, so what you're doing is you're creating a modifier. So at the end of these rolls, you'll either, in each of these categories, you might have a -3 attack or a +3 defense or a +1 agility or a 0 charm. And what those do is when you roll, let's say you need to, there's a bad guy attacking and you have to, and there's a difficulty score. Well, whenever you roll on that difficulty or that action, you add or subtract this ability. Meaning, if I have to jump over a wall and I roll a 10, but I have a -3 in agility, then really it's a 7. And that means that each character has their own unique agility and abilities and scores and stuff. And that's really the only thing you need. Like, you don't have to worry about all the other stuff. This also puts into context the back of the card. So for instance, at most, at least to start, I mean, at most you can have a score of 41 to 50, where if you look on the back of the card, someone like Primordial has 100%, right? So once you get into legendary status or beyond, I mean, some of these stats you easily could pass some of the characters in AFS 1, but as you're moving up, it's going to get harder, right? Meaning those legends need to stay as legends, right? And this may need to be a little bit modified. Like maybe instead of 50, it might need to be a max of 25. But I think what I did is I took the 100% chart on the back of the card and I divided it by 2, so that at most you can max out at 50, right? Meaning that theoretically, if you're at 50 and you have a +3, then Primordial at 100 has a +6. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if you were trying to run and Primordial was chasing you and you ran and you have a +3 and he's got a +6, he's going to catch you, which is true to form because he's a giant, giant monster, right? Same thing with like magic and all that kind of stuff. Flint, does that kind of make sense? And Zach, since you guys are also like RPG heads.
So far, so good.
Yeah, I mean, I think, generally speaking, in RPGs, you don't throw the big boss dragon at a newbie on his first go unless you have a DM who's really sadistic,
right?
Or you're playing Call of Cthulhu,
right? And we don't, and that's right, and we don't know any sadistic GMs, Zach, do we?
Well, I know a few, but I'm not gonna.
Yeah. Cool. So after you get your ability, you kind of have your basic attack, defense, agility, charm, and knowledge. Or again, I reference power and durability in this document. So I'm still working on that. Going to origin. So now we're going to start to create our origin character. And so this is not, none of these are finished. These are ideas that we've been kind of starting to play with, like basically the origin of the background of your character. So you have basically you could roll a d6 to randomly choose, or you could just select, and then based on that you pick one of the benefit options for that background, for that origin. So we have survivors, those survivors who lived through the Great Smushing and have been forced to adapt to the new realities of Hyper Brooklyn. Reality benders, which I'm not sure if we're going to keep. Again, these are all open. Outsiders, people who are from the outside, not actually from Hyper Brooklyn. Mutants, which are whatever the word we're going to use for the superhero components, right? Which mutant, I don't know. We might not actually even be able to use because like trademarks. I got to check that just to make sure. But for now, mutants, dimension walkers, and scientists. Now we also, and this is for everybody in chat as well, we also have our old school roles might actually fit in perfect here. So we have, if you guys remember, we have OG, Horde, Primordial, Swarm, and Soup. And so we may actually be able to like use these as the actual origin title, or giving or the nickname, you know, for whatever they are. So there's some options in here. I'm not 100% yet on this. This might not even be something that we 100% need, but it's one of those things that I saw referenced in a lot of RPGs, and so I understand that there's a value there. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so far so good.
Yeah, cool. And again, if there's anything that I'm missing or anything that pops up, feel free. Same thing, chat, everybody. And then we go into character details. This is where it gets a little detailed. So now that we have your origin and we have a bunch of stuff, we can really fill out those character details. So one of my all-time favorite character building RPGs is Cyberpunk 2020. I love like their character building documentation, like how you build a character in Cyberpunk it's way deep. But it's actually a lot of fun because you get to know the parents' background and the siblings and how much debt you owe to what gang. And I mean, it's so deep that you're guaranteed to get an original character, right? So I didn't want to go full on Cyberpunk because it's kind of like, if you're this, go to page 22. If you're that, go to page 15. I didn't want to get that crazy with it. So I tried to get just the core of what would take to give us some good ideas of what our characters could be. So now you're going to see like the ideas of like a D20, but you're going to see I have like 40, 50, 60, 100 different things on each. These are not edited. They're just ideas. We're going to edit and cut, and we're going to pick the best ones. And of course, if we have other ideas, then we can throw them in. So for character details, we have background, which is, you know, maybe you're a dimensional detective or a tourist or a smuggler or an archaeologist or, you know, some kind of reality weaver or a hacker, right? Or a psychonaut or a psychiconaut or whatever. A reality repairman can be kind of cool. Like you're trying to fix some of the rips in time and stuff.
That's
so
funny.
There's a whole bunch and that's the other key that's a great kind of a great point to make, is that we want to have a little bit of wit and humor in this. You know what I mean? Like I think what makes these things so cool is that there's enough stuff in here where it can be played almost like Call of Duty, right? Or it can be more of a lighthearted adventure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
RT Bear did a book called Time Mechanics recently, where he has characters that's what they do.
Awesome. So you're just gonna see a ton of shit here. Occult scholar, gadgeteer, high-flying hero, secret agent spy, mad scientist, paranormal investigator, reality warper. I got a lot of reality warpers type stuff in here. Researchers, guards, thieves, merchants, scavenger, performer, hunter, escapee. So there's a lot of stuff in here for like your actual, like the background of who you are. Then we go to traits. So the idea is to roll a D20, but again, this is, you know, you're going to see there's way more than 20 ideas usually.
Yeah. For origins, you have 80. It might make sense to come up with 20 more and put it on a D100. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. It's just some of these are really terrible, but yeah, I could probably push it. You'll see a lot of D100s in here, for sure, because it's kind of like, you know, like, and that's the other question I have for you guys. Like, how much is too much? Like, obviously, we don't want to ever do more than, like, most D100s that I see are actually 50 options of 50. And it's like 1 to 2, you're this, 3 to 4, you're this, 5 to 6, you're that.
I think one thing that we could do, you know, because I think our goal here is to give a lot of options that you can choose from,
Yeah.
But also not make it overwhelming, and make it so you can either choose it yourself or just roll a die and pick something real quick and go.
Right.
And so maybe what it might make sense to do for these big lists that we have is, okay, what are our top 10 or top 5? And those are the ones that we present when you're reading through the rules. And then provide a big table in the back if you want to roll a D100
interesting.
and have a lot of options,
That's
like here's your non-overwhelming rule list, and then here's a bunch of other stuff if you want to dig in deep, D&D sort of indirectly does this, where you have, in your core rule set, you have like 10 classes or what have you.
Right.
But you can always go and buy a bunch of books and really dig in deep and pick something obscure,
That's a great idea.
It's kind of the same idea, just you're not paying for a bunch of books to get extra classes,
Right. That's actually a great idea, because that was one of the things is like, as I was coming up with stuff and rolling this stuff, it's like, well, we want to make it accessible and easy and give as many options to create as many original characters as possible. But yeah, to your point, Flint, we don't want to make it overwhelming or really, like, one of the benefits of having just a table roll is that, you can have 100 items on a table and roll a die and have it not be overwhelming, but still, if you were still just flipping through it as a book, it would probably feel overwhelming, right?
Yeah. And it's hard too, because there's going to be people who are going to approach these rules, and they're going to want to do a die roll for everything and pick something really, really unique and oddball. And that's kind of the person that's going to spend a bunch of time with tables. And there's other people that are just going to want to, okay, this sounds good. Pick a couple things. Let's, have a session 0 that lasts 20 minutes,
Right. Exactly. That's the other thing, right? Like, anyone who's played like any tabletop RPG, at least with D&D, knows that, like, when you start a new campaign, the first night is basically like a 4-hour character creation session with like rules lawyers and trying to figure out exactly how you're going to, create your character and making sure that everything is proper. And I want to avoid that as much as possible. Like, we should be able to set up a character in 5 minutes if you want, cool. Yeah. So the next thing is our traits. And I'm actually pretty happy with this. This actually came out pretty nice, where we have like, you're adaptable and resilient, you're fearless and brave, you're confident and charismatic, or you're calculating and strategic, or fierce and aggressive, or wise and cautious, paranormal and mystical, ruthless and merciless, lazy and indolent, charitable and benevolent. So you're actually getting a character trait applied to that character, right? After that, we have drive. I have the set to a D20, but I think, yeah, it came out to a D20. Like, what is actually motivating you? Survival, power, wealth, knowledge, revenge, justice, love, honor, loyalty. And then number 20 is a secret is actually driving you. And maybe it's a secret, and then you can roll another D6. A secret about the past, a secret about the multiverse, secret about others or themselves, the world, the future. So there's kind of a lot of subtlety that you can do inside of this that I think is pretty cool. Style. I'm not actually super happy with these just yet, but I think I actually figured out a way around this, and you'll see in a minute. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I was trying to come up with like different ways to like come up with styles for dress, but it didn't really come out too well. Well, they came out okay, but they're basically, it's very hard to describe in terms of style when you're describing groups. So what I ended up doing was doing a little more about dress and apparel, and that comes a little later. That I can kind of walk through. but you can see I kind of played with a lot. So that's when I went into features, because I was like, well, style is kind of hard because you're like, oh, a 1960s this or a gangster of that, and it's hard to visualize. But features was a little bit easier, like a tentacle arm, you have a cyborg eye, or you have glowing eyes, or multiple eyes, or armor or multiple arms, right? Bioluminescent skin. And again, these are a little. Some of these are. I think we need to. I still need to do a little bit of work on this to have it a nice mix of weird mutant looking things versus normal, like a tattoo, like a glowing tattoo that pulses with energy is pretty cool, because a normal human could kind of have that in a weird futuristic world, right? Or a world that we're talking about with different times and stuff. Long silver hair and a collection of piercings is actually a great one, because it's not necessarily, wings, right? So I'm probably going to lean, and I definitely would love some opinion on this. I'm probably going to lean a little more towards human features, at least for this table, because especially when we get to powers, like if you have the power of flight, then you could probably roll for either wings or a cape, or I don't know, whatever. Does that kind of make sense?
Or a jetpack.
Right.
I think that makes sense. Yeah.
Like I love a scar over one eye accompanied by a gruff demeanor.
Cable?
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's
like literally 100 different characters.
Yeah, exactly. A cybernetic leg accompanied by a limp. Like, that's pretty cool.
Forge?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, there's a bunch of them. Wears a leather jacket or a bomber jacket. Wears a cowboy hat.
Wolverine?
Pretty much. A distinctive hairstyle like dreadlocks or a mohawk.
Storm?
Yeah.
You ever notice it's all Marvel characters? He never goes with DC characters.
Yeah.
And I know why.
Because DC doesn't exist, Andrew.
I know.
And so then I was thinking like roles, and I actually had a shower thought, and I haven't put this in here, but so for roles, everything from maybe like a high-flying superhero to an advertiser or customer service or developer or
Hawaiian.
What's that?
Or Hawaiian
roles. Reformed villain, homeless drifter, paranormal investigator.
I got it, Avery. I got it. It was funny.
I'm lost.
I didn't get it.
Come on.
Yep, he went there.
That took me a minute.
What Hawaiian rolls, dummy?
Hawaiian rolls.
Oh,
yeah.
Gotcha. Charismatic politician or a mastermind engineer. I know it's a little too much to ask to be like, well, do you guys have any ideas? But I did think of like the one thing that I didn't have in here was like things that you would see in Brooklyn, specifically like bodega owner.
Well, maybe we could open up that section to suggestions from the community.
Masturbating in public.
No, let's not do that. But
it's realistic.
Yeah, but
mugger, flasher.
There's realistic and
rhino,
and realistic and ending up on a watch list somewhere. So
I'm already on a watch list somewhere.
I'm fairly certain I'm not, and I'd rather keep it that way. So
you're in this group with me on the internet. Trust me, my FBI agent is already aware of you.
I added this one for Avery, so we're good.
Perpetual masturbator.
I honestly think you need to put in parentheses Avery after that, just so you know where you got the inspiration.
Only if you're trying to flatter me.
Adult fantasy. It's not what you think.
That's right.
But it is.
It's not what you think. Adult fantasy.
Longshore fisherman.
Longshore fisherman. That'd be a great one.
Yeah, he's a masturbator.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I'm glad we're on track tonight. It's great.
Yeah.
But I'm I'm not, I understand it's too much to be like, to say, okay, guys, throw out some, you know, throw out some character details, throw out some, some jobs, some roles. So what we will be doing is once we actually once I get to go through this, and as we go through this and kind of edit it down a little bit, we're going to make this public, and give it to the community so that everyone can add their ideas, right? Because obviously it's this is a massive list, so you're like, oh, it's really hard to come up with ideas when you're not like sitting here looking at it and reading it and all that stuff. So really, we're thinking big picture tonight anyway. But yeah, if anything pops up, like, perpetual masturbator, that's pretty cool. Thanks, Avery. I think
You're welcome.
watch it. Watch this stay in.
Yeah. It'll be everybody's favorite.
Just some kind of just mad in the middle of the adventure. He has to roll like a D4 to see if he just like stops and starts masturbating. It's like, hey, Clint, would that be a bonus action?
Oh God.
I guess does he get it?
I feel
does
like
he get it? Does he get
I feel
advantage
like
on charisma checks?
no. I think that's a disadvantage.
He would get a disadvantage.
I think that's an
Minus
action and bonus
100
action, and he can't do anything else.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. You can't,
unless we consider it a one-handed weapon,
Yay!
That was great.
That was wrong. That was really wrong.
That was hilarious.
It was, but it was wrong.
Pretty awesome. I love you guys.
It's not what you think.
That's right. Adult fantasy. It's not what you think.
Dusty is absolutely right.
Yep. So the next would be wants. Like, what does your character want? Everything from fame and recognition, anarchy, revenge, see others fail, to kill, wealth and power, adventure and excitement, justice and fairness. So a good mix of personal desires that one might want. And also, again, I'm going to go through here and edit, and we'll pare it down to a core, either a core 20 or maybe a core. Well, this is a core of 100, so probably a core 50. Current obsession. Now, I thought this might be optional. Like, what is it that they're actually obsessed by currently, which is really cool because it can change.
We know one of those traits. We're already going to know what the obsession is.
Yes, this is true. I didn't put plays with self on a current obsession. So,
fandom cosplay.
Right. Fandom cosplay is there, and so is Jin. And then like watching 80s movies, making music with DIY instruments, perfecting their parkour skills, building flying machines or something. Like, not all of these are great, but it's just kind of a brainstorm, and we can kind of jump in and edit it and kind of figure out exactly what.
Fandom cosplay could lead to some really wacky character designs.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I have to be, that's one of my favorites, honestly, because I love the idea that you could be a character that's also a cosplayer of one of the legendary characters that we have.
I mean, you could literally have a character that's Andrew in a Sailor Moon outfit.
Yeah. Pretty much.
In fact, I think we're required.
Yeah.
I think that's a mandatory thing. Let's see. So there's a whole bunch of shit in here. And then a quirk, like a character quirk, something that just makes them really unique, like talks to plants, always carries a good luck charm, collects antique buttons, talks in rhyme, has a fear of open spaces, talks to inanimate objects, can't sit with his feet touching the ground, can't stand the sound of chewing, collects rocks. So like just a little bit of a personality quirk that makes the character interesting, that you never know could actually really create some interesting
has a fear of clowns.
That
should be everyone.
Yeah. Pretty much. Talks to imaginary friends, all that good stuff. And I believe clowns is in here actually. So there's just a ton of them. Believing in the power of crystals. I love this one. Believing that they're a superhero.
That's great.
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
funny.
great. Compare
That's
that with
really
someone
good.
that has no powers, has the cosplay,
Yeah.
and then that.
Yeah, right. They're just like, you can totally see it. Like they're not a superhero. I mean, again, it goes back to Carl a little bit. It's pretty good.
I love it.
And so with that, you've pretty much got your character details and your origin, and then we dive into past allegiance. So if there's like you're a member of a group or you were formerly a member of a group, this needs a little bit of work. But I do feel like there's a value in here. Again, it's just a bunch of made up names affiliated with the Black Sun, a secret society with a focus on the occult. Basically a bunch of associations with an insert random name that did some random thing because we're just starting out with all this. But then I started getting into like a little more specificity, like ex-employee of a powerful industries, insert weird name of a company here.
All right. So how much of this was created by AI?
Some of it. Okay. Yeah. No, I absolutely consulted ChatGPT 100%. Are you kidding me?
Okay.
Yeah. No. Like it ChatGPT saved us like 6 months of work. So cheers to that. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You can. So I'll say like the mechanics are not made by ChatGPT, but when it's like, oh, let me just, you start writing and you're like, fuck it, like give me 100 options. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean they're good.
Yeah.
It's not like you just roll with it. But
some of the randomness of craziness in some of these.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's obvious.
You could see it. Okay.
100%. Yep. But I think it's like I said, this is really more. This is why this is not final and this is alpha, right? Like, what ChatGPT is great at. I mean, look, it came up with like 56 options or whatever, and we can go back or not. Some of these were mine, but most of them, a lot of them were ChatGPT, and so it allows us to kind of go back in, edit it, pare it down, and kind of tweak, right? Without us having to say, hey, Andrew, come up with some past allegiances. Go. Right. It gives us just a little bit of a framework to start with. But I do think some of it needs work for sure. Like I think past allegiances is a little vague. So I think that's something we're going to have to massage. So if you have any ideas, well, let me ask you this, because this is an area that I think is could be really fun and important, but I'm not sure how do we express a past allegiance when there's not going to be necessarily any reference for that past allegiance? Like we can't say former member of the X-Men, which would give you some context. What do you guys is there any ideas on past allegiances? Or should we go with something basic like, gang, legal associations?
It's tricky, right? Because with this sort of thing with, say, D&D, each one of these organizations would be something you could go on a wiki somewhere and look up the organization and learn about it. And they don't necessarily have that. So, you either, if you're listing them out like this, we either need to commit to coming up with something for each one of these organizations, which is maybe what we do, but or keep it general.
Right. Or maybe we change it where it's not necessarily allegiance. Maybe it's like contact or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like has a contact within a Lower East Side gang. You know what I mean? Like something a little more general.
I kind of like it more general because it gives the player some opportunities to come up with something cool.
I like Flint's idea of having like 10 really simple categories and then being able to expand on those.
Yeah.
Like if one of the thing is street gang, you could take 20 different street gang details out, but you don't have to. You can say, okay, I'm a member of a former street gang and leave it at that. But then if you wanted more depth, you would have the list of 20 different street gangs that you could roll for or whatever.
Yeah.
You could do that with former superhero sidekick. You could do that with ex-cop, ex-soldier. But then for each of those, there'd be multiple different options that you could expand on, but you don't have to. It doesn't have to be this specific when you're setting this up.
That's a good point.
It could be something more simple. Like the one night there used to be a chrono soldier. I like that one, but I would put that under a general heading of used to be a soldier. You know,
I see.
If you wanted to go even further into depth, you would have additional options. I think for pretty much all these, you could do that. Group them into like 10 main categories. Keep it simple, like Flint said, but give them the option of expanding further. Because with all the different suggestions you got here, some of them are going to be ridiculously crazy when you're building a character, and and then things start to conflict. You know? I used to be a televangelist. Now I'm a Satan worshiper. It's like, okay, but it could happen. But
right, okay. That's I like that. Like maybe, yeah, okay. So
especially these lists that you have that are really long, simplify it to like 10 main categories, but still keep these lists as other options.
Right. Yeah, I really like that idea that Flint had, where you don't we short it down, we shorten it, and even if we shorten it from like 100 to 50, and those 50 are just freaking awesome, then crop that even to like a D20, because a D20 is a very common die, and then move the other ones into like the back, so that becomes a D100 table, right? So that there's like if you want to go for the advanced options, go in the back. Otherwise, just do these top 20 and you're good to go. Like roll it and move on,
Yeah, Flint's pretty smart. I'd listen to him. That's it. That's all you get, Flint. You're done. No more.
I'll take what I can get.
Okay,
he knows diddly squat about movies.
It's true.
Yeah.
Big brains can only hold so much. But that's actually great insight, guys. So, MK says, nothing wrong leaving optional with reference to AF wikis of various backstory groups. Yeah. Okay, cool. That makes sense. Thanks for that, MK. Yeah, I think that's the way to go. Like, it's so easy to overcomplicate. And I think especially once we get to the rules, I think we've done a pretty good job of getting the rules tight. I think they're actually pretty good. I mean, we won't know until we play, but they're pretty solid. So it's really just making sure that the options are not so overwhelming. And I just think, if every page is a D100 table, it can be a little crazy. There is something to be said for just rolling a D6 or a D10 or a D20 and getting it done and moving on. All right. So then we have hit points and defense rating. So this is where we start getting into the actual rules, or this is actually still setting up your character. But so really quick, for those that don't know, hit points are basically, it's your power bar, right? So any video game, you have X number of hearts or X number of little power spaces before you die. It's how many points do you have, until you die. And so I found a couple of really awesome mechanics that I'm actually really dying to try. So we'll talk about it here. So hit points, you're going to start with a base durability. So we go back to your durability rating, and then you roll a plus D8. So if your durability is a +3, and then you'll roll a plus D8, and if you just got a crit and you got a D8, there would be 8 + 3. So your durability hit point number, your hit points would be 11, right? And that's basically would be the cap to start with as a kind of like a level 1. In the worst case, you have 1 hit point but you can never begin with less. So you can never stop. You can never have 0 hit points. When you reach 0 hit points, you're considered busted. If it reaches negative hit points, you're considered dead. Now, there's actually some interesting caveats. I think it's going to be interesting. MK says, by the way, thanks, Avery. Spit my tea driving home. Hawaiian snort.
You're welcome.
So wait a minute, MK. Wait. Hawaiian made you spit out your tea, but like perpetual masturbation as a character didn't. Priorities, sir.
It was the dad jokeness of it.
I know. It's pretty funny. So here's what happens when you get 0 HP, when you're busted. You're going to roll a D8. And on a 1 to 2, you fall unconscious and you'll roll a die for up to a D4. You'll fall unconscious for D4 rounds, and then you awaken with a D4 HP. So at most, you fall asleep or fall unconscious for 4 rounds, and you can wake up with anywhere between 1 and 4 hit points. If you roll a 3 or a 4, you're going to test your charm against a dice roll, a D10. So you're gonna have to kind of roll for it. If you succeed, if you beat that dice roll, then you're going to be unconscious as above. If you fail, then you're going to go critical injury as below. So if you roll a 5 or 6, or if you fail to test for charm, 3 or 4, you get a critical injury. Well, then if you get a critical injury, you're going to roll on a body table, which I've actually created. You're going to roll on the body table to see where you were hit. The body part is destroyed and has to be replaced or regrown. At the moment, you are unable to act for D4 rounds, and then you become active with D4 hit points. So if you get a critical injury, you'll roll on your body to find out where that injury is, and you'll have that taken out. Now, if you roll a 7, you've got a hemorrhage. You die in D4 hours unless treated. All tests are a dice roll, DR 16 the first hour, and then DR 18 the last hour. So it's gonna be harder and harder for you to live because you're dying. And then if you roll an 8, meaning you crit on the busted 0 HP roll, you're dead unless you can pay. And so then we're going to go to negative HP. And so here's the modifier to death. If you have a personal bank account with at least 1,000 BAMF, there's a 50% chance for an emergency response team to reach you in time to save your life if you are at 0 or negative 1 HP. Add an additional 0 to the bill for each negative HP thereafter. For each negative HP,
that extra 0 is so mean.
Yeah, that's vicious.
For each negative HP, you will spend D6 days in intensive care afterward, but you will be alive.
Oh, that's so mean. I like it.
I thought that was
question.
Yeah.
Oh, God, sorry.
Go for it.
So, for the success fail for the critical injury.
Yeah.
Why charm?
Good question. I was thinking because it was a little bit because charm holds luck.
Okay, I see.
Right, but I could be persuaded if you thought like strength or like the power meter was more.
When you say charm contains luck, I kind of get it.
Yeah, it's like charm is everything. Charm is the catch-all, right? Charm includes like perception, but it also includes magic and luck and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. Like on an initial glance, without knowing that information, I would say like, why isn't it strength or something?
Mm-hmm.
But I see where it's coming from to some extent.
Cool.
It's not necessarily intuitive.
So maybe if I said like maybe if I just clarified by saying 4 luck. If I
That helps some. Yeah.
Like this is obviously I can go back in later and maybe define like why this is a luck roll.
That might help. Yeah.
Okay. Who's listening to something else?
It's not me.
Looks like maybe Zach.
It's Zach.
Hold on, let's see.
Oh, busted.
Called it.
Got him.
Zach.
He's not even there.
He's not even there. He's AFK. Oh my god.
AFK with an open mic.
All right, hold on. That's okay. That's what we get for hiring an author who likes to drink. Anyway,
That's most of them.
Thank
You
God he's
know?
not a perpetual masturbator, you know?
that's true. That's true. Zach is Katie. says
Yeah, but
Zach
I can
knows
do
too.
that while on stream.
That's right. That's so funny.
Don't
That's
lie to
fine.
everybody.
Dude, he
You have.
wrote a freaking
You
novel,
have.
like a freaking massive novel. Like he can do
That's
whatever
why
he
I
wants.
keep my camera turned off.
That dude can do whatever he wants. Defense rating. So your defense rating is a measure of how well you can avoid damage. Your unarmored defense rating is 12, modified by adding your durability. You can increase it by wearing armor. So it gives you a little bit of a defense rating there, right? So that's basically your armor class, your AC, right? Body table. So I thought this was kind of fun. These numbers are fake. You're going to see like amounts in gold. None of this is real. It's just I wanted to get a relationship of value on the table so that we could maybe go back and see how much BAMF, if you needed to say replace your head, for instance, like how much would it cost? So
This
you
is
have
black market prices, right?
black
Yeah.
market prices.
Are you coming back with organically grown, synthetic, or cybernetic?
Ooh, I like that.
There's
That's-
the different prices. They give you different boosts if you want them, if you can afford them.
I like that.
I like it.
So what did you say? Synthetic, organic,
Yeah,
synthetic.
some type of synthetic organic or cybernetic. And each one, like growing things back 100% your body takes the longest. Synthetic organic, faster, more expensive. Cybernetic, fastest recovery and a little bit of a boost, but it's super expensive.
That's great, Avery.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's badass. I like that. That we'll have to figure. That's going to take some like work to figure out like how to do that. But I think that's pretty dope.
So, you have an arm replaced cybernetically. Well, when you come back, your strength is higher. Your what damage you can do is higher, but it costs you a lot to get it.
That's great because we're gonna especially that actually ties in well because once you see what we have for especially things like vehicles and stuff, like I created fake tables. They're not mathematically correct yet, but tables that have that reference like how much it is to use one time, how much it is to rent, and how much it is to own, right? Like vehicles and like places to live, things like that, like dwellings or settings. Like how much is it to own a house or a condo in Hyper Brooklyn versus if you rent it versus if you're just staying there one night, right? So
and how much of something cybernetic can have an effect. Like if just your hand is cybernetic, it's not going to be that much of a boost because it's going to have a stress amount it can take because of its connection to flesh.
Yeah, this is actually really fun. I've always loved the idea of doing body injury like charts. back in the day, there was a game, and I cannot remember what it was. I don't think it was 007, but there was a TSR game that was you were a secret agent, right? And you were basically James Bond, but I don't think it was called James Bond, right? And one of the things that they had on their character sheets that I fucking loved was something like a minor version of this, right? Where if you got shot, you had a roll, and it was like a headshot or a shoulder shot or a chest shot. Like you actually incurred damage at a point on your body, and I really thought that was cool from a character standpoint, right? And then for this, we added like pretty much all the major ones: face, throat, groin, spine, ankle, wrist, elbow, knee, hip, leg, hand, all that kind of stuff. And then if necessary, you can roll a d6 to choose the side, like either the left side of the body, the right side of the body.
I used to love the video game Bushido Blade because you could injure parts of the body, or you could kill with one shot.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There are actually, as I recall, with second edition D&D, there actually were optional rules you could use for damage to specific body parts. And there were a bunch of other games like that in the 90s. I mean, the problem is it never really took off, though, because they were just, speaking as a DM, they were just a pain in the ass to run, because you had you had to track where the damage was,
right?
And if you had a particularly persnickety player, things get slowed down. I mean, I don't think you don't want it to be too detailed, because that's how games get bogged down, is when there are too many rules for people to nitpick over.
That's a fair point.
Oh, Zach's back.
Just because I'm not speaking doesn't mean I'm not listening.
You were gone with an open mic.
Yeah.
No, I was actually sitting here listening to you guys.
So you didn't hear Todd calling you multiple times?
I might have actually fallen asleep. Sorry.
Oh.
It's okay. Okay. Ain't no shame. Ain't no shame.
We're not hating you. We're just poking a little fun.
Todd makes me fall asleep too.
I was just going to say, we've all done it on this stream.
I'm working on a website while I'm talking to you guys. Okay?
No, you're good, man. Don't even worry about it. It's not even a problem. That's actually really good.
Well, you know what? Just for that, I'm going to go mute.
Yeah.
Well, listen to this. Zach actually does bring up a really good point. Do we want to pursue a body table? I mean, I think there's a valid point for it, but we've never played it, so
it's cool, but it does have the potential to go way too deep. But it is cool. It's cool as fuck.
It is cool, but I also feel like you can always add more later, but it's harder to take something away that maybe wasn't such a good idea.
Well, here's the question I want to ask, because I remember when we started working on this, like last session, Todd, you said you said that the one thing that really turned you off of D&D when you started was the amount of time it took to get set up. So I just,
it's true.
I mean, you said you wanted a game where people would just jump in and play. So I think the more stuff you add, the more time it's going to take to set up.
It's true.
I mean, I'm looking at Pathfinder right now for various reasons.
Right.
And it's a fun game. It's 3.5 based. Well, not so much anymore, but it is a pain in the neck to get set up for that, because you've got you're talking about like at least 2 or 3 hours to set up a character. Now, if that's the way you want to go, great. The more the merrier. But if you want something that's going to bring in people who like comic books, who want to play in the world but don't necessarily know a whole lot about RPGs, the KISS principle comes into play. Keep it simple.
Right.
That's my 5 cents. So
great, man. No, it's super valuable. Flint, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm thinking simpler is probably better here.
Okay.
It's one of those things where if your game wants that kind of complexity, they can always role play it out, and they don't necessarily need the complexity. I'm wondering if there is a simpler way to do it. It may just be like
Just GMing it.
GMing it. Like, yeah, you lose a limb, and then the context determines what it is.
Yeah, and there's and Zach brings up a really good point. I mean, one of the things that excites me about this is that once we get the core rule set nailed down and we've played it a few times, we can start to add optional rules for people that want to go deeper, right? So we can, just because we eliminate the body injury location chart now doesn't necessarily mean we don't add it back later. That we're super open to it, right? Like,
Yeah.
So
a potentially simpler rule. I've seen this run very well in D&D. Is if so the way I've seen it played is if the amount of damage you get is more than 50% of your total HP, you lose a limb. So you're basically it's basically like the amount of damage you get is determining how bad the permanent injury is, So if your HP is 50 and you take 25 damage below your 0, right? You get a permanent scar on your face or something.
Say that one more time.
If it's like if your character is at 1 hit point, right? And you have 50 hit points total and you take 25 damage, okay? So that's half of your total HP. And so you're going to take a permanent injury of some kind. So if it's low, if it's like 25, you get like a permanent scar on your face or arm or wherever you got hit. If it's something ridiculous, like you get hit by like 80 damage and you're at 1 HP, right? Then you might lose an arm, might lose a leg, something more life impacting.
Gotcha. And that's in 1 hit, right? Or is that total?
Yeah, and that's that 1 hit that takes you over from however many hit points to I'm at 0.
Okay.
Right.
We'll have to modify that a little because this is based on 0 HP. But I think that's probably a really good place to investigate.
Yeah. It's not putting your HP negative. It's just saying, hey, I took 50 damage. I'm at 1 HP. I'm now at 0 HP, but here's how much of a hit it was.
Right?
That's determining how bad the injury is.
Right. So you could basically, maybe it's even just a simple die roll at that point, like a D4 or something, and you just say if you 1, 2, 3, or 4, if you crit on a D4, then it's like a head injury or a chest injury, and if it's like a 1, then it's like an ankle injury or a wrist injury or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
Or do you drop the 50% there because you're already rolling to see if it's going to be a critical injury. So you don't need
Fair
that.
enough.
So it could be just okay. Take the amount of damage that you're at below 0, right? And
Take the amount of damage you're at below 0.
Yeah. Again, so if you're at like 1 hit point and you get hit with 30 damage, right? So that's 29. You're going to 0, but there's like 29 extra damage.
Right.
So that would be a worse hit. It's dying because a plane hits you versus getting punched in the face, right?
Right. Okay.
They're going to lead to different kinds of permanent injuries,
Like basically, it depends on how deep below 0 HP you go, right?
Yeah. And it's not that you're actually going negative. It's just like how bad was that hit that put you over,
right. Okay, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, try not to overcomplicate it, but
yeah, I'll think about it. I'll think about it. It might even make sense just to call it critical injury. And if you roll a 5 or a 6 on a 0, then you're like you've just lost an arm or something.
Yeah.
But I like that's a really interesting rule. I've never heard of that. That's pretty cool. Cool. All right. So starting gear and starting bonus. We got like savings, item slot. So here's my question. Okay, so this is something I'm really curious about. So one of the things that gets a little hairy, but is in a lot of RPGs, is item slots, right? So item slots being you have you have a bag or a backpack, or you roll for whatever you carry, and that bag, for example, backpack, can hold X number of items, right? Mm-hmm. And that X number of items, because you're human or supposedly human, you can hold X pounds of weight, right? So what happens is, like, if you start to carry more than you can actually hold, you start to slow down and things like that. Now this rule set doesn't involve feet, meaning you don't have to worry about, I'm moving 5 feet that way or 10 feet this way. You just kind of go with the flow. And my instinct, I put in item slots because it's a very common thing, but I'm actually thinking about cutting it. And I'm kind of on the fence about it, because for believability, world believability versus play. I've just never been in a game where someone actually runs out of ammo or runs out of arrows or is carrying too much and they're slowed down.
I would ignore it. Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
You could have it, but it also could be cool for characters who are technology based.
Right. Yeah. Maybe as an option later on or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have that be something you have to earn. You have to earn your way up to having a backpack.
That's not bad.
Yeah. Do you have a backpack that has like 10 slots? Do you have a messenger bag that has 4?
Right. It's just that it starts to become heavy when you're trying to figure out exactly how much, like, you can actually, like, carry and stuff.
Because, instead of having an item like a lucky rabbit's foot that gives a +10 to luck, someone who's a technology-based character would have like a force field generator.
Oh, fair enough.
That adds to durability. It can get smashed through by a powerful character. Or heck, may not work at all against magic.
Yeah, one thing that I wouldn't recommend doing is doing limited carry of items, like having a backpack with slots.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I know a lot of RPGs have that, and in every RPG game I've had where there have been rules for that, everyone just ignores them because it's more fun that way.
Right. I mean, you always start. It's like you always start with a starting kit, and I've never seen anyone limit themselves by what they're carrying. I've never had a GM ever say, "Oh, you can't pick up that weapon because you'll have to drop something because you're already too heavy, sir." You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't.
Yeah, happen. It's too mechanical.
Yeah.
It slows the game down. You don't have to. You have to keep track of how much weight you're carrying. And no one really wants to do that, I don't think.
Okay, fair enough. That makes a lot of sense.
You know what? When I'm playing an RPG, it's one of the first things I find to cheat around when it's a video game.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. If I didn't have a mod for Skyrim that unlimited my carry weight.
Yeah, and I'll say it works better in video games because the game manages it for you. Yeah, you don't have to go add up the weight of the things you're carrying or anything like that.
Right.
In all the games, in all the games I've ever played, we never paid attention to the weight rules.
Right.
It just slowed things down.
Okay, fair enough. So we'll eliminate that. That's awesome. Starting bonus: if the sum of your ability scores is negative, you roll a 1d6 for starting bonus. And I'll limit this, or a d10 or whatever it's going to be. Just a bunch of interesting things. Some of it will give an ability score bonus. Some won't. Some will just be like a really cool device or something. And then starting kits. I feel like starting kits are mandatory, but only because like every game has them. But then I'm not sure that like have you ever used your lock picks or your dice game?
I mean, actually,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Now that said, not everyone does, you know.
Right. I will say that I thought these were kind of interesting, so I kept them. It was like scoundrel, technician, spy, adventurer. Like they're actually starting kits on a like for a specific type, like a class. Like if you're a hydroponicist, you have a personal hydroponic system, seed pack, water purification tablets, nutrient packs, advanced soil tester. Like that's pretty fun.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And that would be different than the ninja who has a katana, shuriken, smoke bombs, grappling hook, and ninja stars.
If anything, it's cool for flavor, you know?
Yeah. MK says lock picks used all the time. Caltraps, and a rope, etc.
Rope is the big one. Yeah.
Yeah, rope is always a good one. And MK says same for spells on the other thing. No one checks if you have the right ingredients in the fight.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, no one does that.
Yeah, nobody. Right. Yeah, everyone's like, yes, just go.
I cast magic missile.
And then I thought personal trinket, something really small and fun, kind of something that adds a little personal flavor. Handwritten love letter from a lost love, holographic key to a long forgotten storage unit, silver chain with a pendant of your birth planet or something, small brass figurine of a mythical creature. Basically, the ones out of these are things that again add a little bit of flavor to your background. A bent metal chain once belonging to a powerful artifact. A small silver whistle used to call forth a trusted ally. Right? Like these are things that we can use just for just one final piece of character flavor, right? Which I think is pretty cool. So let's see what else. That's character creation. Now we have weapons and armor. I got a little crazy with the character foundry and outfittery, so maybe we cover that before we call it a night. But really quick, weapons and armor. Start with one weapon. I just rolled a bunch of like as many weapons as I could think of. So it's just a shit ton of them, and I'll go through and like we'll pick some good ones, pick some bad ones. And then I have to go back and kind of work on armor. There should be multiple tiers of armor, but we don't want it to be like too crazy, so there's still some work to do on armor, so I'm not going to talk about that too much. But other than to ask, like we agree, and I'm assuming this is an agreeing thing. We agree that armor should be available in the world
of some kind. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now this is interesting.
Okay. I saw things like riot shields in there. Are we doing handedness? Like you wouldn't necessarily be able to shoot a two-handed rifle while carrying a riot shield in one hand, Yeah,
I think that would be more of a GM call because that obviously makes total sense. But it gets a little rules lawyery, I think.
Sure.
Right? If you're carrying a shield and you're wielding a two-handed weapon, I mean, I know GMs that would let you do that just so that they could play that out.
Just because it's cool.
Yeah, just because you look like a moron flopping around because you can't do that. Right?
Yeah. Disadvantage on everything.
That's right. They'd force you to roll disadvantage just to okay, you're holding this, so you can do it if you want. And they'll be like, well, you kind of check them. You check the player, be like, well, yeah. Maybe not. Maybe, oh, that's right. Maybe I won't do that. So this is a question that I have. This is I separated this because intrinsically know this is too much. However, I thought it was like kind of fascinating, because I started to actually think of these characters almost as, well, not almost. I started thinking of these characters as potential PFPs, which is profile picture characters for NFTs. And when I did that, that kind of cracked open like variant costume body types and costuming. Now I know this is too much based on like what we're kind of how we're going through this, but I just want to make sure that it's too much. Sex, body type, ethnicity, and then when I went into outfittery, it was like headgear. There's a shit ton of headgear, and then chest gear, and then arms and legs and feet, right? Like you could get some power pants. That'd be fun. I'm assuming this is too much, and I just want to make sure that it is.
I think that is maybe appendix matter, not core rules. It's stuff to help GMs,
Oh, sure.
I can see that mostly the outfittery. I can kind of see that being I'm the GM and I'm making a store of cool things,
Right.
What can players buy?
Okay, that makes sense.
And I can see the character foundry stuff being useful as like a reference
For like NPC
it's not necessarily
building.
Yeah, it's not necessarily core or helping with character design for players, it just doesn't necessarily need to be in the core, it's not the part of the one pager,
Right. Okay, so we keep it short on the main, and then we will pad all that other stuff in the appendix if we feel
yeah, totally,
that it's okay. That makes total sense, because it's like that's one of the challenges of this, right? Like it's one of the challenges of making an RPG, because when you start opening the Pandora's box, you can go really freaking deep, man.
Oh yeah.
But there's a balance between too much and too, just right. Awesome. So that was we'll finish off secret HQ location creation because it's really short, and we'll call that a night. And you can see then we get into playing the game and all kinds of stuff. Playing the game is actually pretty cool. We can cover that next week, but
I sent you something really off topic. I don't know if you could play it, but it's from Summoner, the PS2 days. It's an Easter egg.
Okay, well I'll play it after.
It's a D&D joke that was an Easter egg.
Okay, I can play that after this for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. And so secret HQ creation, this kind of came to me as an idea, and I don't know if we really need it, but I thought it could be cool if there was like, as a depending on your crew, like who you're with, like either you have a secret HQ location or your crew has one, right? Like a home base, like and it could be anything from like an apartment to, like an abandoned subway station, decommissioned space elevator. I don't know. Disguised high-tech workshop. How do we just on? It's just a ton of them. And then I go into like how did you get it and all kinds of questions we can look at. But before we do that, what do you guys think about like a secret HQ creation? Is that something that makes sense?
I don't know, because not every character is gonna have an HQ.
Right.
For every secret supervillain with the underground base, you have Carl who hangs out in a bowling alley.
Yeah.
Right. It might be too much.
I don't think
it can always be expanded and added later.
Yeah, I think that's something that that you could work towards, or could be done in game via role playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something you might have to build and earn.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah, building and earning actually help. That's the way to go with that. That adds to the replay, and also if your character survives and keeps growing, that's something you earn.
That could be cool.
Because there's going to be a lot of times your character's just dead, and you just got to make a new one.
Well, it also makes sense because if you're the challenge with the Secret HQ at the beginning anyway is that if you're a level 1 and you're just starting out, and you might not even have superpowers, right? So like, you're not gonna have a Secret HQ if you're like a normie character. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. That happens over time. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
Build it and earn it. Yeah, that's
Hey,
good.
man, I'm all down for, again, we can add this to
all this can make one heck of a video game too.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, if you really look at like most video games are I mean, correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not like an expert, but it sure as hell seems to me that like a majority of video games out are basically advanced tabletop RPGs.
A lot of them are RPG-like, or RPG-light.
Yeah.
Like even Grand Theft Auto. If you play Grand Theft Auto online, that is gangster RPG light.
Well, look, the fact is most of those RPG, a lot of the games, they're actually, the rules are basically based on the original D&D rules. I mean, a lot of those concepts were created by Gygax and company back in the day, and they proved, very, it's like it was kind of a natural fit because
all the dice rolls happen.
Yeah.
In the code, when you swing your sword, dice, you don't see the dice roll, but there's statistics being played against each other. Your attack and strength versus their defense and health. It all happens. And the critical, each weapon has its own crit chance and damage modifiers and.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, cool. This makes a lot of sense, guys.
Yeah, there's a lot of games that I would call it RPG light going on. Even in something like Grand Theft Auto, it's RPG light.
So we can go through playing the game next week, and that'll give me another few days to kind of go back and kind of edit some of the other stuff. Also, one of the things that Dusty's been working on is bringing over the stuff from our World Bible into this document. So that's something that we're going to be. So we have a pretty robust world, so we got to be careful. The challenge is to not make this like 800 pages because it's actually we have quite a bit. You know what I mean? It's a little crazy. But yeah, it's pretty. I mean, what do you guys think so far?
I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, so far it seems like it's going to be pretty fun.
I think I would play this.
Cool. And we'll get Andrew to play it too. He'll love it.
Yeah. Play with it, Andrew.
I don't have time for this stuff. What are you talking about?
MK says looking good. Thank you, sir. KG says very cool. Thank you, guys. Yeah, the playing the game, I'm just going to give a brief look at it, but we've got general rules, combat, death and healing, advancement. It's very simple. It's really, this is actually where I spent most of my time, to be honest. Making sure that this is the stuff that's actually gonna work more or less. So we'll go through this. It'll give me another week to kind of look at it and make sure that it is playable. And then we can review some of the changes and the tweaks and stuff. So awesome. Is there anything else before we bounce for the night, guys? Avery, did you want me to play that thing? Is that something I can play on camera, or is that for?
I don't know. It's from a PS2 game that I played years ago that has a Dungeon and Dragon joke in it.
Okay, we'll play it in the green room.
It's really old. I don't think you'd get in trouble for it because the person who uploaded it isn't the official person.
We'll do it green room. I will say KG says gotta run. Good night. Hey KG, thanks for coming out. MK, thank you so much for coming out as well. Willie D, everybody. The Galaxy, how are you? Welcome and good night. And we'll play it just to be safe. We'll play in the green room.
Okay.
But yeah, everybody, we're grinding, man. We got a lot of stuff coming up. Just a reminder, please go to web3comiccon.com. Sign up if you haven't already. Let's see. MK says, love D&D jokes. Avery, I play a Necro all the time. Friends got me this sticker. And then he pastes, it says, the hero, I'm on a quest to avenge the death of my father. The paladin, you have my sword. The elf, and my bow. The dwarf, and my axe. The necromancer, and your father.
MK, look up from Summoner PS2 days for the
That's hilarious.
Dungeons and
Man.
Dragons Easter egg. It's pretty funny.
That's a really good sticker.
That's where I was going. I cast magic missile. That's from
really
that.
funny. And your father. Willie says, looking forward to playing this thing. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good time.
I think it's going to be a really good time. And like I said, like the whole point is that it's not just a game. It actually, as we march through these campaigns, we'll start to actually build the lore. I think again, my could be wrong, but I think it's a really smart way to bypass having to create 80 years of comic publishing, right? Because that's just not going to happen. So,
yeah.
It's much smarter to get a whole community playing games. Even if everyone's playing, if you got like 3, 5, 10 different groups playing the same campaign, you literally could end up cherry picking the best scenes and the best outcomes and the best components to create that lore piece.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's pretty cool.
You can take all that, hand it to a writer, and say, "Fix it."
That's right. That's why we got Zach here.
Yeah.
MK says, "Thanks for another great night. Looking forward to playing and working the bugs out." Hell yeah, dude! I'm excited.
Yeah, man. This is going to be great.
Absolutely. All right, guys. I love you all. Thank you guys so much. Happy Thursday. See you over in Discord tomorrow, and if we don't, then we'll just see you next week. And have a great weekend. We love you guys. Take care. God bless. Get some sleep. Don't be like us. Like, try to get more than like 3 or 4 hours of sleep a week, please, for God's sake. And with that, we'll see you.